it from the beginning. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I don't know what that's like. Yeah.
No idea. Interesting. This can expand into so much more.
Hey guys, it's Natalia and welcome back to Unfiltered Fashion Talks. Today we have Yannah with us from Vendetta Designs. I'm so excited. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited as well. This is the first time I'm doing anything like a podcast before, so I'm
I'm honored.
overexcited.
I am honored. Okay, so if nobody knows who you are, what is your little elevator pitch? Like, give us a little intro.
So my name is Yannah. My middle name is Bernelli, so that's where Bernelli Designs come from. I am a fashion design student at FIT. Right now, I'm pursuing my bachelor's in intimate apparel. So I'll be done with that next year, and I'll have my full 4 years of fashion design. I started out honestly just playing around on social media. I had my Instagram and my little YouTube, just like a lot of people did, just for fun. But then I really started getting some recognition on TikTok. So if you would know my name, maybe that's where you would find me. And I just used to film all my life while I was going to FIT remotely during like the lockdown times. And I guess that started getting some attention because I was one of the few people in Manhattan at the time using facilities. So I guess it was like a very romanticized thing for a lot of people, but I was just showing my like everyday life. And then after that, I kind of just used some of that attention to focus on growing my name. So now I focus a lot on like my Instagram and like expanding overall socials to truly try to like capture the essence of what I'm doing and my aesthetic. And now I've expanded into freelancing. So I'm an independent designer, as well as trying to start my own other brand besides Bernelli, which is Vendetta.
So exciting. You've got like a million things going on, and we're gonna get into all of them. Like, I'm so excited. But I feel like we need to like backtrack and get to like, how did you start in fashion? Like, how did you know it was for you? The before FIT story.
I always tell everyone that I've been drawing since I could pick up a pencil. My family actually used to get really mad at me because I used to be the kid that would draw on walls. And they eventually became very resourceful and got me my first little journal. And I started journaling since I was little. So I used to have a bunch of like composition books and like sketchbooks in my house that I would just fill up and doodle all over. And I would just always call myself a doodler. Before I had coined like Bernelli Designs, it was Jan's Doodles. That was like my
That's so cute.
Yeah. And I used to just like play around and do all that stuff ever since I was a kid. And I was always kind of into fashion because I used to draw people all the time with clothing, even though it wasn't necessarily like designing. I used to love doing that. And like trying to like switch up all my ideas. It eventually evolved into design. I never really had like a design class growing up in middle school, high school. So I turned all my art classes into what I kind of wanted it to be, I guess. And then I used to compete in like little like art competitions that were local and try to do like my own illustrations for design through there. And then even in high school, it wasn't really design focused. I really did it all like self-taught by myself in my home and just like build up those sketchbooks until I got to FIT basically.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. I feel like I was the like opposite of that, where I wasn't a drawer. I was just a sewer, but knew nothing about drawing. And I find it so interesting whenever it's like, I know people are, I feel like on either side of the spectrum, but nobody's ever really in between. It's like always you were a drawing like arts kid, or you were like a hands-on arts and crafts like sewing kid.
Yeah, I always had a sewing machine actually. It's the same sewing machine I have now. I've had it since I was 8 years old. But I am a person that gets easily frustrated if I can't catch on to something. So if I didn't learn a skill right away, I would just like drop my sewing machine. Like if the bobbin wasn't working, I wouldn't figure it out. I would just like, and that really hindered me from like progressing as a kid. But I was always sewing something. Like if it was like a little pouch or like a little like blouse, I was always trying to figure it out. But it wasn't until high school that I really got into like actually making garments and like learning that.
Right. So let's fast forward to FIT. What has your experience at FIT been like? Because like I know I went to FIT, but I was basically in Italy majority of the time I was at FIT. So did I
Wow.
really go to FIT? I don't know. Like,
I feel like,
so
yeah, the Italy kids, I feel like have a totally different experience for sure.
exactly.
I actually transferred to FIT, so I started on an off semester in the spring. So my
Hmm.
experience is also a little different than the traditional, I just got out of high school kids.
Right.
Um, so I went to a state school called Oneonta for a semester. Just wasn't my vibe. It was like upstate in the mountains type of situation.
Yeah.
I always knew I wanted to go to FIT, so it was my goal as soon as I like went there to just like do my gen eds, go to FIT, and transfer while I'm taking those classes.
Hmm.
And I did that. So I think it was spring 2019. I got into FIT and I started in January. So very different change of pace, especially like when you're moving into New York in the winter time. Um,
Yeah.
it's like welcome week was like super different. Like all that stuff was like, I don't know how to explain it. I guess just like drearier time, so it was a little
Yes.
scarier.
Yes. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
so I my experience at MIT started off like I guess on like the wrong foot in a way, but I
Mhm.
definitely tried to make the most out of it since I knew I felt like I was a little behind since I had like a semester away from the other kids who got in first at that time. So I definitely felt like I was playing a game of catch up for a while because a lot of
Yeah.
the kids, like you were saying, are either illustration kids or sewing kids.
Right.
And so I feel like first semester is definitely like a sewing intensive semester.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
And I was just stressing left and right, like not knowing what to do with like half of the techniques, just like always doing my homework. And I found it a little hard to focus because the city is very distracting when you're wanting
Mhm.
to like maximize all your time. So, I like was exploring, like trying to find like a bunch of new experiences, trying to make friends when FIT really has you focusing on just your work and
Yeah.
nothing else.
Yeah.
So even though I was doing a lot of, I was meeting all my deadlines, it was just hard because I didn't know how to manage my time essentially. And that's like my number one thing now is like, make sure to manage your time, Yannah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Very important.
So far, I think it's been uphill from there.
Mhm.
Definitely, bumps in the road, professors that I didn't get along with,
Right.
people that I met I didn't get along with. But then like there's always the good with the bad.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't think it was ever like a perfect experience, but like perfect doesn't exist in my mind. So,
Yes.
it's a give or take, lots of lessons learned essentially. And now, I think the remote semesters really gave an extra push for me because like I had to learn how to basically like be my own boss or be my own
Mhm.
professor. And that's what kind of led the whole like Brunelli Designs thing to kind of take off because I really was in my head a lot during all that time to figure out like why am I going to FIT in a remote time and like what am I going to do with this?
Right.
Um, and then I knew I wanted to continue, so I was like, what's going to be like my next like motivation once I'm like done with this and I have all this extra time?
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, that was a really unique experience as well. So I feel like the whole time frame that I've had at FIT up to now is very, very different than a lot of people because of the transferring, being
Right.
remote, and then like
Yeah.
taking that gap and coming back.
Right. No, yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah,
But, you've managed and you're here and you're doing intimates, right?
I
As your
am. I'm
specialization?
scared.
That's honestly, I would be too. Like, I never obviously got to the point of specializing or doing any of those classes, but intimates like just intrigues me so much.
Same.
Like, there's so much to it. Like, what was your thought process on like choosing your specialization?
I wanted to do intimates for a while. So I'm Dominican. I was
Mhm.
born there and then I was raised in the Hamptons in Montauk. So I've always been around the water and like in a resort situation. So
Mhm.
I've always had the designer mentality of like going on vacation, having something for like a special night. And I was always interested in swimwear actually growing up. And then tying that into like every day, I was like, what's the equivalent of swimwear for like every day? It would be like intimates, like something that's very
Mhm.
um like a part of your body that's like an extension of like your own beauty. So intimates always intrigued me. I also found it interesting growing up that it was almost a little taboo. Like people
Yes.
went straight to the sexualization of it,
Mhm.
opposed to what you can do for yourself with intimate apparel and how it like helps you feel confident.
Right.
So that's something I've always wanted to challenge and explore upon when I have my time in that program.
Right.
I think I will pursue that for sure. So I was just always intrigued because it's something that like you don't talk too much about, but like everyone knows
Mhm.
it exists.
Yes. No, that's so true. Has your like perspective changed like over the past couple of years now that like lingerie is more of like a even like ready to wear like thing that people actually wear out like
Yeah.
on top of clothes like as clothing? Like are you like more wanting to do it now that it's like less taboo, more even just more worn
Yeah.
publicly?
No, for sure. I've always talked about like the progression between like Victoria's Secret, Aerie, Savage Fenty, like all
Yes.
that stuff that's been going on within the past like decade, I would say,
Mhm.
um, is like fascinating to me because it's honestly changing. Maybe I'll just speak from like an American perspective, like
Mhm.
the perspective of how women are perceived, at least in
Right.
America, I can say.
Yeah.
Um, because I think it was very like male centric for a while, like something that wasn't really necessarily to make you feel great. It was just something as like a showpiece to
Yes.
something that's like, I want to buy this for myself. I can wear this comfortably. I know this is like going under my clothes, but I'm going to work to feel special type of situation.
Right.
Or the like the Savage Fenty business model is like really cool where they have like all these different occasions to wear it for. So I think the expansion of I guess like inclusiveness overall. So like, including different bodies, different people, and different occasions even
Right.
um is expanding so much, which is really, really cool. And it's like really fun that we're, you know, I guess not fun's not the right word, but but interesting that we're living in a time that we've been home for so long where intimates are now thriving in a way. It's not
Yeah.
just loungewear, it's now your intimate apparel, like what makes you comfortable while you're sitting in a chair for so long. Um,
Literally, yeah.
yeah, so it's been interesting to see all these people who are in the head of this industry shift to what the world's kind of revolving around now.
Yeah, no, I found it so interesting as well. And like I've noticed you've been doing like little polls on your Instagram, like asking people like kind of that perspective on like lingerie pieces, like corsets specifically. And like every time you go through those polls, I'm like, I don't even know what I think. Like I literally sat there, I was like, is this for the male gaze or do I like it like for myself? Like I don't
Yeah,
even know. It's like such an
I
interesting perspective.
right? I'm actually doing that for my CFDA project that I'm going to be starting next year. So,
So
or
cool.
sorry, next semester.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to kind of get a holistic perspective, starting with like people who followed me to
Right.
see what they would think, because one person's opinion isn't everyone's perspective.
Right.
So to see the results of those polls were so interesting, and a lot of them were
Yeah.
50-50, which was really cool. um, but I am going to be further developing an idea of like, I guess like what an anti-corset would mean. Like,
Right.
what's something that would like mold to your body, or like, be more inclusive, or like be more socially acceptable in a way in today's
Mhm.
world. To see if you could design something like that, but definitely tying in a cultural and historical aspect to it is super
Right.
important. And history is also like within us. Like we're going to be the future of fashion, and what we're
Mhm.
experiencing now is going to be history eventually. So I think today's perspective is super important to also survey and analyze, because we're living through such a niche experience within
Yes.
having our having our opinions out in the world right now.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. I'm excited to like see you develop that. Oh my gosh.
It's a 60-page journal, so I like was like, I need to put out some polls. I need to
Yeah,
do
you need to get started
research.
on that. Oh my god. Yeah,
Yeah.
I never got around to doing that because obviously I wasn't there for my bachelor's or anything, but I don't even know how people manage to get that done. Like
I
the
don't
thought of it,
either.
seeing people that I know going through it, I'm like, oof, like that sounds so stressful.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
it'll be
like a
great.
lot
I
of
think you have a cool
work.
concept.
Yeah, thanks.
Not to like discourage you from that. I'm like, that sounds really freaking cool.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
This is my new goal right now.
yes. Okay, so shifting gears a little bit, how would you like describe your design aesthetic?
I've been thinking about that a lot. There's like not a word for it, I feel.
I
Which
feel the same way when people ask me that. So,
yeah, I think that was also my goal for a while is to like not
mhm,
be categorized.
yeah,
I mean, we grew up in a time where we had like Pinterest, Tumblr, We Heart It, like all these like imagery websites or like search engines that like categorize everything. Um,
right.
and it's hard like when you go to design school or when you start becoming your own designer, like that's the first thing they tell you is to not like fit into a mold or like not to
Yes.
just like, feed off of what you're seeing there because that's already created. So when I started at FIT, I really wanted my main focus was to create my own like name through like the things I was doing. So I can like give some adjectives, I guess.
Yes, yes.
Um, but I don't know. I would say it's like soft romantic with a little bit of like party girl.
Yes.
Definitely glittery,
Mhm.
um, feminine, uh, and then just I think the word soft is honestly a good one. Like something
Yeah,
that's
I
just
think that is
really like
good.
um, toned down, cute, classic, elegant, but still young and modern.
Yes. I love that. That was like a perfect description. Like knowing your designs, I feel like that is a perfect description.
Thanks.
Yes, of course. So now going towards, I guess, like social media and stuff. So let's talk about TikTok because, well, we found each other on TikTok first of all, which is
Yeah,
kind of fun. Like the very beginning of literally everything, like
seriously.
pre any of us having followers, which is really funny.
I know. I always think back to that. I'm like, I can't believe I found her before we both kind of like launched stuff.
Yeah, we were like
Usually
at the
jobs.
same yeah, we were like at the same point of our like journeys or whatever, which was kind of
Yeah.
funny. But then you blew up with your celestial set.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that whole project.
Yeah. Honestly, I was not expecting that. And honestly, that's like what how everyone says like the villain origin story? Like that's like my
Yes.
because that was actually my capstone, my like associate's degree thesis project.
Right.
Um, I think you had the same theme with Greek
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
mythology. Yeah,
Right.
they repeated that for my semester since this was the first full-blown remote semester. I
Yeah.
guess I don't know what happened, but they just decided to repeat it.
Right.
So I was frustrated from the beginning.
Oh,
um,
you and me both. I hated that
yeah,
theme.
I did not get along with my draping professor also since
Oof.
the beginning. I don't know why they did not like me, but that was just the first obstacle.
Yep.
And I was on a very, very tight budget because I just moved out of my childhood home because of familial issues.
Mhm.
So I moved out with no money into the city during a remote lockdown pandemic semester.
Literally the
And
worst time.
yeah, I had like a very strained roommate situation. It was like such an intense time where I literally was like, I'm just going to put my mind onto what I'm doing in school and just focus on that. I took all my classes into like consideration for a whole aesthetic. Like I was saying before, I wanted to really just make this all make sense together and make it
Mhm.
very me. So my illustration was also the same as my draping class, etc. Um,
Right.
and the celestial set was based off of the Greek goddess Selene. She's the goddess of the moon. And I was telling the story of how apparently in the middle of the night, she like basically like races across the sky and like visits all the stars basically. So I wanted to do something like very flowy, very like kind of like abstract, I guess, but still
Mhm.
very wearable. And the top was all hand beaded with constellations. So I had
Which was so
really,
cool.
yeah, I like was like staring at a screen and then staring at beads for like 72 hours straight. um, but yeah, so I had the time of the world since it was lockdown, and
Mhm.
I filmed everything, and I was just making silly little TikToks because my
Right.
sister told me to download TikTok, and my 14-year-old sister knows best. And it just got addicting for a while. Finally, slowly they started getting like a couple more views, but like I guess I don't really know what to call like a lot anymore. But like
Yeah.
I went from like 5 likes to like 100, and then like
Right.
one of them got 200, and I was like, whoa.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then finally, it was I'm a Lady Gaga stan, so I was like, this was fate. But it was that
Yep.
one little transition with the violins that like Lady Gaga
Yep.
has. That like I've never done a transition video before, but I finished my project and filmed my roommate wearing it. She's actually my current roommate now, Emma.
Mhm.
She wears it all now after that one moment. But I filmed just like 5 seconds because I was like, this is weird. I don't want to film my friend and then tell her that I do TikToks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like did a little thing where I was like, and just like took 5 seconds. And that video all of a sudden was just gaining traction while I was getting reviewed for that project. So the professor was like, you could have done better. Like, I've seen better, like blah, blah, blah. I just got told that like I didn't get into the exhibition and all this stuff. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, like I'm just here to satisfy myself. And I
Yeah.
finished this project during a very hard time. And I was like, you
Yep.
know what? I'm not gonna be liked by everyone. And then I go on my phone later that night, and all of a sudden I refresh and I just keep doing this thing where I'm like, oh my God, I just keep getting notifications. This is so
Yeah.
weird. And that was the first time I ever went viral, and I was freaking out to like my sister because like, she's 14, and that was like so cool.
Right.
But as soon as I think once you get like one viral video, I think the algorithm kind of keeps pushing you for a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh my god, the semester's ending. Let's put everything I've filmed onto my platform and just like make a bunch of different videos and like show what I'm doing." And people liked it, which is really cool. So that set was definitely like a culmination of a lot of different feelings.
Right.
And
Right.
it was a good end to that semester that literally brought me like hell, basically.
Yeah. No, it's so crazy how things work out like that. I also feel like for whatever reason, like whenever professor like really doesn't like something, everybody else seems to love it. Like
Yeah.
I had the literal same experience with like my zipper pant set that I made. I was like obsessed with. Everybody told me they loved it. My professor literally took off points because of creativity for it. And I was like, literally what? And then it blew up for me too. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like,
It's
what the
so
heck?
weird. Like, I understand that, like, mine wasn't maybe, like, avant-garde or something, but that's not
Right.
necessarily what
But it
everyone
wasn't
go
like
for.
exactly, me neither. Like I'm not an avant-garde type of person either. Like I'm a
Yeah,
like I like to wear the things I make, so I'm not gonna make something
yeah,
super crazy.
yeah, I, like, was receiving critiques, like, you know how everyone else also gets some input in the class?
Yeah.
A lot of my friends or, like, just the kids in the class were like, "I can tell that Yannah made this, like, this was
Right.
very her." And, they were saying very nice things about, even just, like, the photography I did with it, like,
Mhm.
on the mannequin, I'll give it to him. It didn't look that great, but it's really when you
Yeah.
started walking, that
Exactly.
like you could see the movement and all that stuff. So it was a very nice turn of events, especially since a lot of the kids in my class were like, "I saw your video on the internet," and I was like, "Yeah."
Like, "Oh, yeah. Okay." Yeah. No, it's so interesting. But what has like your social media journey been like since then?
Interesting. That's I'm
Yeah.
gonna keep going back to that word. I I don't know. I think I at certain points overwhelmed myself because
Yes.
I had a lot of time at a certain point. Like after that celestial set thing kind of died down, I tried to see what I could do with the people who were following me. And then I
Mhm.
noticed a lot of them were kids who also like wanted to go to FIT. And then I kind of came to this like realization that like what I used to do as a kid was like watch all these like FIT YouTubers and like that's what they're
Right.
doing now. So I was like, oh, like what does like 15-year-old Yana want to see? And then I started doing that.
Mhm.
And then I didn't want to just be teaching because I felt like I was sort of getting imposter syndrome almost.
I get that too.
Yeah.
100%.
So I started expanding a little wider into just like my everyday life. And I feel like people were very hit or miss at that point because I
Mhm.
definitely did not glamorize anything that I was doing.
Right.
I just showed what my life is and
Mhm.
how I deal with being a student that has like a full-time job and like does
Yes.
fashion like on the side while they're
Yes.
studying. Like I don't have any like really pretty titles. So I definitely feel like people were like questioning my integrity almost, I guess. And like it
Yeah.
was really hard to kind of come out of like I guess like the clout that I got for having such
Mhm.
pretty videos and then showing like what a realistic day looks like
Mhm.
what's my budget and like I
Yeah.
don't go shopping every day. I don't live in Soho.
Yeah.
You know? Like all this
Yeah.
stuff, slowly people were just like not really into it. And I'm like, I don't want to stay or like stray away from my authentic self. Um,
Right.
so I started doing commissions more. So I started kind of trying to really turn what I was doing into a brand, essentially.
Yeah.
So I like spruced up my website, started focusing on some Instagram stuff, and just like started basically taking in whoever like reached out to me for like
Mhm.
freelance jobs, like one of a kind pieces, like stuff like that. That's what I shifted for a while, because I really was just done with retail.
Yeah,
uh,
I don't blame you.
yeah, so even though I was in retail, I definitely knew I could start saving some more money, which is great because it was like that transition between like 2020 to early 2021 was like one of the lowest times of my life. And I was like,
Mhm.
we got to get back to school. I got to make sure I can get my bachelor's degree, just like
Yes.
focus on, getting myself back on track. So I was definitely using it a lot as like a little outlet myself as well. Um,
Mhm.
and now I feel like it's just like a little like diary or a blog almost, just like to keep track
Yes.
of all my stuff. And people are just like along this ride with me. I don't really try to like go viral or anything anymore. I really just enjoy the people who've been there like the whole time and just like
Mhm.
are very genuine with me. Some people like email me and stuff like that too, which is like really cool to see that like there's like interest in like wanting
Yeah.
to know like, truth rather than just like here's my really pretty pictures and here's
Yes.
what I do.
Yeah, no, I think that's so important because obviously there's like a whole stereotype of FIT students on TikTok.
Yeah.
Without naming names, we all know.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not a bad thing. Obviously, everybody just has different lives or whatever. It's like important to show that fashion design kids don't have that glamorous life that everybody
Yes.
assumes that we have. And it's like, totally normal for you to not see the light of day for a couple of weeks because you're just working all the time
Yeah.
or like having to, work an actual job too on the side and like do all those things is totally normal. And I like love that you're so authentic with that because you just don't see that a lot. I feel like a lot of FIT kids or just fashion design kids in general try to romanticize it so much to the point where it's like we all know that's not true. Like that is not how you're living your
Yeah.
life.
I got to a point where I was making a lot of jokes on TikTok about like people who steal designs, like not sleeping,
Right.
all that stuff. Because there's definitely a huge gap in like learning about design on the internet,
Mhm.
I feel like. So a lot of people turn to business kids to try to see what their experience is
Yes.
going to be like. And as soon as I went into FIT, I knew I kind of wanted to turn my social media into something like that. I just did not
Mhm.
know, or TikTok didn't exist, I think, like our
No,
first
I don't
semester.
think it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so as soon as I like started experiencing all of this stuff, and I did live with like some business school kids, I was like, wow, like our experiences couldn't be more opposite.
Right.
So I kind of kept like a little log of all my experiences, kind of tell the stories now. And I like to just like, you know, be very upfront and not sugarcoated about like you're gonna be sacrificing a lot, like you're
Yeah.
gonna be, you know, dealing with mental health stuff and trying to overcome
Yes.
all of that. And if you want to do this, you can't have like second thoughts.
No, not at all.
Like once you're in it, like you're gonna be losing resources, time, money, you name it. Like if you
Yeah.
just like quit. Um, and professors will definitely knock you down for not being 100% in it. So I try to kind of shed light on that, but it's so hard with
Mhm.
social media platforms like TikTok, where it's like they want to show all the pretty stuff. Like
Right.
conversations aren't really held that much.
Yeah.
So whoever's there to listen to it is whoever gets to hear it, I guess. But I definitely try to make it very transparent because I still enjoy what I do. But
Right.
I think my perspective when I was in high school is definitely very different on like what I want to do with my life and this whole industry in general.
Right. No, I
Yeah.
totally get that. I feel like once you're actually there, everything just shifts and you're like, "Oh, that's not what I thought it was gonna be."
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. But I hope more people listen to you because I just think it's important for people to actually see how things are, and also to
Yeah,
see that, like, you don't have to be a rich student to make it either. Because I feel like
yeah,
that's such a stereotype, and obviously it's so much easier if you have money to live in the city and, like, to do all the things, but it's, like, not completely impossible if you're not,
yeah.
which is
Yeah, I
also
think that's
important.
actually a huge thing for me,
Right.
because there's a certain lifestyle that goes along with, like, even just not just fashion student, but an FIT student that is,
Yes.
like, perceived on the internet that I didn't know about because I was never that person. So,
Yeah.
like, that whole clubbing experience, like,
Like, I
the
don't know
things
what
that
that's
I'm
like.
wearing,
Yeah.
no idea.
No clue.
But yeah, my first couple of years I used to work at SoulCycle, and I would wake up, like, sometimes at, like, 4 AM to, like, start my shift in the morning and then go to
Dang.
class later, and then I wouldn't have that time the rest of
Right.
the day to have fun because then I had to do my homework, and,
Right.
it's so different because there's, like, the physical aspect of doing homework and, like, the
Yeah.
psychological, like, once you start getting into, like, a journal or something, like, that's your
Oh my
emotions that
gosh,
you put
yeah.
into your homework. Like, all that stuff is, like, so much more than just, like, writing an essay, putting down numbers, doing math,
Yes.
or,
Yeah.
just, like, a general. Um, and then going to your professor and saying that they don't like your fabric, and then you gotta buy more fabric,
Yep.
and you're like, "My paycheck isn't until next Friday." Um,
Right.
like, not having anyone to turn to for any help of any sort is very, difficult, and I think a
Mhm.
lot of people are deterred from making their dreams come true, just because it's hard, and, like,
Yeah.
pushing through and perseverance, I think, is a big part of, having that personality to make it through all of this, whether it's monetary or just, like, mental health, um, being able to push through like a lot of different struggles that you experience, I think is like number one, and like a personality trait that I think a lot of fashion students have because they know
Yeah.
like you got to get through it, if not you're not going to make it.
Exactly. I'm like, there's no turning back once you decide to do this. So, like,
Yeah,
it's all or nothing.
for sure.
Yeah. Um, so moving on to like future things, let's talk about Vendetta. I'm so excited about it.
Me too. I am like
Yes.
freaking out. I am a person who likes to just keep adding more to my plate even though I can't eat it
I'm
all.
literally the same. Like, I'm literally the same.
Yeah, so Vendetta is an idea that, honestly, I wanna say it was a long time coming, but it was really out of
Mhm.
nowhere. My roommate and I and a friend of ours, so Emma and Micah, I live
Mhm.
with Emma. We get along because of many reasons, but one thing that we always go back to is like different aesthetics that we like, different
Mhm.
experiences we had on the internet. So we all had very similar muses growing up in our teen years, and that was just always a topic of conversation. And all of a sudden one day I was in class and I was like, if we started a brand, we would like take over the world or whatever. I just like made a stupid little joke and then
Right.
kept running with it. And then we were like, wait a second, what would we do if we started a brand? And we just kind of started like conspiring a little bit.
Mhm.
And then all our hangouts just all of a sudden started turning into this whole like business plan, basically. And then we were using our time efficiently, I guess, because we were
Mhm.
hanging out a lot, but like it was
Right.
all towards this company. So now it's basically our like mission statement to like redefine femme fatale, like the
Mhm.
modern femme fatale, like what does that mean? So we're definitely striving for expanding that aesthetic essentially.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Tumblr was problematic at a certain point. You know, there's
Yes.
like certain movies that you always look back on that like you can imagine a girl being that femme
Mhm.
fatale, but it like might not resonate with you, even though like the characteristics aren't physical, you know, like there's like an
Right.
image. So it's really about what makes a femme fatale from the inside, and like how is that a good thing, you know? Um,
Right.
so the whole like kitschy part of like the man eater and all
Mhm.
that stuff, it's definitely just about confidence and like the perseverance thing I was talking about, you know, like making
Mhm.
sure that your struggles turn into something like beautiful for you in the future. So it's been really fun because it's a storytelling brand. A lot of it's super personal because a lot of Vendetta is like personal experiences that we've had. So the names mean something, the numbers mean something.
Right.
Like everything that we're doing has to tie back to Micah, Emma, or I, you know.
Right.
Um, and it's been really fun to kind of take things that we've struggled with, experiences that like really hurt us or like put us down, to turn it into something that's like going to end up succeeding for us in the future.
Right.
Um,
I love
so
that.
so it's really fun and kind of like an empowerment thing for everyone. You know, we always have this joke where it's like you have to do it until it's not ironic anymore. So like the whole
Yes.
like girl boss feminism and whatever, like it's super ironic nowadays. But if you
Yeah.
encourage everyone to kind of be part of that whole thing and like not be exclusive, like it can do so much. Like uplifting other people is like
Right.
incredible. And like I guess I have this little like magic trick where I just make a TikTok and sometimes it just does really well. But
Yeah, which is great.
we made a TikTok a little too early, and the first TikTok we made went viral. And then
Yeah, I saw it. It was beautiful. I was
yeah.
like so intrigued.
Yeah, so I don't know how that happened, but that attracted a lot of people who were like,
Mhm.
are you going to be size inclusive? Are you
Yeah.
like, this is so cool because femme fatale is never for me. Like I always see a certain like bombshell or like
Yeah.
certain body type to go with that aesthetic. Like
Yeah.
so excited to shop from you. And we had this idea, but we never really realized that this can expand into so much more than
Mhm.
just what we were thinking, because people started resonating with it without even seeing imagery yet. So we then went on to Instagram and we're like, okay, so now we have to start building up the aesthetic. And then a reel blew up, and then we are like, oh my God. So the process of starting this business has honestly been within the past 3 months, which is
Mhm. Crazy.
terrifying. Yeah, because that's not any time at all to start a business.
No.
And we're
No.
launching like next month.
I
Um,
know.
which is crazy, but we've done it
Yeah.
all. We've been focusing on it every single day. I like been saving up my money. I quit my retail job in November, and I was like,
Exciting.
I have to put everything I've got into Brunelli, Vendetta,
Yes.
on my social media, and
Yes.
fingers crossed. I know I'm gonna do something with it, but like, let's
Yeah.
do it. So that's like really what it's been. I like still don't have proper words for it just because it's like, you know, like I'm gonna get off of this and start going straight to like my iPad and like
Yep.
figuring out like, tax ID stuff. Like all this stuff is like
Right.
insane that I like wasn't prepared for doing fashion
Yeah.
design, but like the entrepreneur mindset has definitely shifted my design perspective now. Um,
Yeah.
so it's crazy, and especially because I'm collaborating with my best friends, it's also really like motivational.
Yeah.
So
I bet.
it's fun. It's like it's a good push.
Yeah, no, that's so good. I feel like it's rare to have friends that you actually work well with.
Yeah.
So it's like good to see that it's working out for you. Like I also work with one of my best friends. So it's like nice to see that that stereotype can be beat. Like you can work with your friends, like if you
Yeah,
have a
I
good
think it's
relationship.
establishing boundaries for sure and making
Yes.
sure there's no hard feelings.
Yes.
Because we disagree, like we're not the
Of
same
course.
exact human. But just making sure that like no one's feelings are left behind, the storytelling, we all get a different section
Right.
of it. Um, and just laying everything out on the line and just making sure that like we're doing this all for ourselves is really important. And the care of each other outside of just like
Right.
a business is so important.
Yeah. No, for sure. So post college, like what are the like I know you have time. Like I
Yeah.
know you're not like, you've got time. But like because you have all these things going on, like what like do you see yourself pursuing more, or like would you start something new, or like what's your vision like right now? Like I'm sure it'll change, but like right now, where's the
Yeah,
vision?
I was just gonna say, I feel like at this point every day it's changing.
Yeah.
Um, but I, for a while, because I struggled with money, I literally was just like, whatever can just get me stable is my
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah.
Because the industry is so hard to like get in and stay in,
Yeah.
that I was like, I will be happy with a design job. Um, that's
No, I don't
changed.
blame you.
Yeah. I definitely, if we're talking in terms of goals, it's to have it all in my hands. I think that's part of me being a little bit of a control freak, but I,
I'm the same way.
yeah, I really just want to be able to be my own boss. And even though a lot of professors and stuff deter that and say like you have to work under someone else, I feel like within the past couple years, especially with social media, the whole shift towards working for yourself has been less taboo, more destigmatized,
Yeah.
and like more encouraged because I just think that's more sustainable for yourself in a way. Especially within the industry that we're in, it's so difficult to find like a good boss or like your ideal
Yeah.
work condition or just even a good salary. So
Literally.
so for me to not have to jump through all those hoops to finally find that dream job, I think that would be like my main goal, to just
Mhm.
make sure to like set all the laws for myself. I used to always grow up saying I wanted to be like a head designer of like some fashion house. Didn't have to be like a huge label, but just something runway I always wanted to do. Now, when I was growing up, I wanted to start a business for a while. But now I'm kind of just thinking like I want to just explore in everything. I
Yeah.
want to do as much as I can. I don't know what that means, but if I can keep Vendetta, talk to people for a living, and then like
Mhm.
just kind of dip my toes wherever, that would be my goal because I don't like to be stagnant with things. I definitely like to move
Yeah.
around. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally feel that. I'm the same way. I'm like, I've always wanted a brand, but now I'm like, oh, but I like YouTube's really fun and like having a podcast is fun. And like I just like need to do a million different things at once to feel
Yeah,
satisfied.
me too.
So I'm right there with you on that one.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of us have that mindset where
Yeah,
we're all just go-getters and very high standard, high achiever people.
definitely. I feel like you have to be in this space. Otherwise, like you're not making it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So thank you so much for coming on today. So fun talking to you.
Thank you. I'm so honored that I got to be a part of this. Like, you're so sweet to talk to, and hopefully we
Thank
can meet up
you.
again whenever you're in New York.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm like hoping to be there for New York Fashion Week in February, but it's like all TBD with like COVID right now. So
Oh, great. Oh,
I
man.
don't know if I'll be there or not, but fingers crossed I'll maybe be there in a few weeks. If
Okay. Well,
not,
you have to let me
I'll
know.
I'll figure something out. I'll go eventually, but we'll see. But where can people find you? Shout yourself out.
Okay. So Bernelli Designs is my main handle. So that is BERNELLI .designs for most social media websites. Otherwise, if you want to just look me up, my name is Yannah Jones.
Perfect. Well, I'll have everything linked down in the description, the show notes, all the things. Check her out. You won't want to miss it. So many fun things happening. I'm like just excited. There's so many things that are like gonna come into fruition so soon.
Me
So
too. Ah.
I know, so fun. So yeah, thank you so much for
Thank
coming on
you.
today.